Welcome to See You at the Table, where stories meet grace. Here we gather, not just to speak, but to listen. If you want to witness how God brings people together from all around the world through powerful testimonies, tune in and see you at the table. Here's today's host. All right, guys, welcome back to See You at the Table. We're so glad you decided to listen to another episode.
Yeah, we got a really special guest today, Lance Howerton, who actually I worked for back in the day in CentraKid. Also a CU alum, or I guess Campbellsville College alum at that point.
That's right.
So our chapel speaker for today, but so glad you're here. Thanks for being on this.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we always love to ask people a few questions, and since you are a CU alum, maybe you'd love to share how you ended up at CU or anything that you'd want to share maybe about the olden days of Campbellsville College even. But
Yeah, so I started here in 75. I had graduated from high school, and I actually worked a year before I went to college. My dad, my mom, neither side of our family had ever been to college before. My brother, he started at Moorhead the same year I started here. But in high school, I dated a girl, and her sister went here. And so I came up with her one time, met her sister, saw the campus. And so when I decided it was time to go to college, it seemed kind of a natural fit. And I just kind of fell in love with the people. It was small. I remember when I arrived on campus, for a preview, I felt very welcomed, very appreciated. They just made me feel like it was the place for me. Of course, I was a Christian. I grew up in a pastor's home, so I loved the Christian connection also. And I had a pastor my dad worked with who said to me one time how important it was to go to a Christian university. His reason was because you're most likely going to meet your spouse at a Christian school, so it's important to go to Christian school. And honestly, most of my friends met their spouses at college. Many of them got married like the Saturday after graduation, like immediately. We didn't even leave campus.
Oh my goodness. I
was a little different. I didn't get married till I was almost 30, so I didn't meet my spouse at the school, but I did meet some what I call forever friends that we still get together once a month. Strong believers who still pour into my life and been a blessing. Yeah,
that's awesome. What I know you mentioned when you came on campus, Campbellsville's changed a lot, like from the look of it. You know, there wasn't a chapel here, but what, even with all those changes, what have you found is something that's still true about Campbellsville even many years later?
Yeah, my sense is that what drew me to Campbellsville is still the same, faith-based. Not everybody. When I was here, followed Jesus, even as small as we were. I think there were 300 students literally when I came here. Yeah. So talk about small. Wow. Not everybody followed Jesus. You knew which ones did and which ones didn't. I'm sure that not everybody who's at Campbellsville today follows him, but the professors that I know are Christians. Mm-hmm. That means, I think, more than people may realize. But for me, it wasn't just what I learned in class, which was important, but how they invested in me outside of class.
Yeah.
They would have me over to eat. You could show up at their office. I kind of mentioned it in chapel. My buddies and I like to play tennis, and that's back when people played a ton of tennis. And I even had professors who would catch me and say, I think you're playing too much tennis and not enough time in the practice room.
Yeah, it's pickleball now.
I was going to say, it's pickleball now.
Tennis back in my day. Basketball, tennis, we played intramural football, but tennis was kind of our free time activity, if you would.
Yeah.
And as a music student, 1 hour classes, you don't really have a lot of time for that.
No.
But if it was a day like today, beautiful, sunny, not crazy hot, you'd probably find us on the tennis court. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was something I didn't know about you, was your time in the School of Music. I don't know why I didn't know that, but yeah.
Most people, don't. So
should we test it out? You want to share it? No, okay.
Not going to happen.
What are the church modes?
Yeah, my dad was a minister of music at a church. Mm-hmm. Back, it wasn't unusual for Dad to just call us up on a Sunday night. Hey, we're going to sing, and we didn't know it was coming. So when I came to college, it just seemed like the natural thing to study. Mm-hmm. Not that I didn't enjoy it or didn't feel like I was decent at it. Obviously, it's not where I spent my career because I think I was actually more. There were other gifts that I had in my life that I love more. So in music, I always think people can come from the very naturally talented, right? They just automatically are musically talented. Mm-hmm. Then there's people like me. I could sing well, but I came more from the theory side. I wasn't just naturally gifted musician.
Hmm. Yeah, you mentioned in chapel today your experience at camp revealed gifts you maybe didn't even know you had. Do you care to share about that experience a little bit? Because I think a lot of students find themselves in those places. And I think they miss out on those opportunities because they say no to a summer camp, or they don't think about saying yes to that interruption like you were talking about. But what was that like for you in that process?
Camps, I don't know how to explain it other than, in a sense, it's the first time somebody, at least for me, and I think for most students at work camp, first time somebody really entrusted them with something. Like, you are entrusted with a group of students that you are to invest in emotionally, spiritually, to share your gospel story, God's gospel story with, your journey to Christ. And that's a unique thing, I think, for most people. What I also found for me was I loved all the planning and preparation on the backside of camp. Like, some people just naturally gravitate to relationships, and they love to hang out with students and talk about, just relationally. Like, my camp world, we always said life change happens best in context of relationship, and I absolutely believe that's true. There are people who are just naturally gifted on that side. Although I never felt like I was bad at it, I really gravitated towards and was used a lot to invest in the backside of camp or whatever I was doing. I learned I love that. Also realized that how important hard work was. Yeah. So I was like the first in and the last out for everything. I talk about that a lot to summer staff. The idea of don't just show up because you have to and just stay as long as you have to, but what does it mean to be the first in and the last out? Like, you're so invested, they're going to show up early and leave never before everything's done. When I was in my Lifeway camp world, a guy named Joe Hicks and I, we would always what we called turn out the lights. We'd be literally, whatever was going on, we would literally be the guys turning out the lights, and how important that is. So it was just, somebody entrusted me with something. Man, we were in our 20s, and somebody trusted us with, 600 students, right? And all of us were in our 20s. That's a pretty amazing thing. Yeah. There's not many places you can have that kind of opportunity.
That's one of the things when I worked CentriKid that stood out to me. Even the things that you have the people, you guys would also entrust us with all these resources, a lot of money that these teams are traveling around as far as just equipment and supplies, and that takes a lot of trust in God even to turn that over. Somebody who's like, we have a lot of student leaders, like Holland's the student leader of the worship team that helps run Vine, our campus worship, and some of the hardest things is to motivate other student leaders. What kind of advice or wisdom would you give on that part of like that turning the lights on and turning the lights off to really get people to kind of grab a hold of that as a young adult and to take it? Because sometimes it's hard to get people to even engage with that, I've noticed.
So for us, we talk a lot, train a lot about, certain things. Hard work is one of those. Like, it's one of we call it SMS DNA at Crossings. But that importance of just simply working hard. If you're going to work camp, you're going to work hard, whether you're the first in and last out or not. You're just simply going to work hard. To help people see the value and the need to do that, right? That you're part of something bigger than yourself. And to make this successful, to do all that God's called us to do, and to really make a difference in people's lives really requires us to go the extra mile. Yeah. Chick-fil-A has what they call extra mile service. I don't know if you guys know much about Chick-fil-A organization, but that idea of extra mile, what's come from Scripture, right? If you carried the pack so far, but man, keep going. Although you're required by law to do this, you need to, as a Christian, you need to go farther. I think for me, what I found is for young people, for some of them, this is the first time we had what you may call a real job. They don't really know what that looks like. So you've really got to help them see that. In your context, I think it'd be even harder.
That's tough.
Because they don't work for you.
Right. It's all volunteer.
All volunteer. Wow. So I would think the only way that would work for them is for them to see, man, I want to help you succeed way beyond being here at Campbellsville. Part of that's your faith and making Jesus your own and loving him well and growing in your faith and being discipled. But the other part of that is when you leave here, there's a work element to that. And I want to help you succeed once you leave here. And here are some principles and things that if you can master these, they're going to help you regardless of what you do.
That's so good. It is a challenge, though. I think even in church, a lot of times I share with our student leaders, if you're going to be in ministry, a lot of it actually is going to be volunteer-based. And so the understanding how to even lead out when it doesn't feel comfortable or when everybody else is not in the same mood or in the same excitement, enthusiasm. That's a challenge, and it is hard to take on, especially if you don't have that money in the back of your head that's kind of motivating you a little bit as well.
Sometimes you gotta let the motivation be that your treasures are being stored up in heaven.
Yes, I think it becomes, what's the mission? What are we here for? What's if you can keep people focused on the mission. So at Crossings, our mission was to proclaim the gospel in the shortest sentence, right? Mm-hmm. We create events, experiences. We create experiences to proclaim the gospel. But our ultimate goal is to see people come to know Christ, right? And to grow in him. So if you can help people see, man, that's what we're here to do. And we have to do this and do it well in order to do this, right? And how important it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just keep focused on that mission.
Yeah, that's tough.
Help them see that they're part of something much bigger than themselves.
Right. Yeah, and in college, it's on such a quick cycle. Like even with camp, I mean, you're only there for 8 to 10 weeks, but so much happens so quick in that space of time.
Yeah, I had I love studying leadership, and I had this season in my life. So Fuge camps, Lifeway camps in general, most all of the summer staff, even the ones that run camp, are like in their 20s, sometimes early 20s, right? So you've got the 21-year-old camp of 800, sometimes 1,500, right? And they've got this staff of young people pretty much their own age, right? And so I was asking, like, why does that work so well? And I've got friends who sent me these, who'd work camps, sent me all these leadership tips and all these standard leadership principles you could find anywhere, which were okay. But I had a buddy of mine who sent me, he said it's really, he didn't say it was simple, but it was simple. When you get there at camp, your camp director knows more than you know. So you trust them, right? And about the time you realize you know as much as they do, it's time to go home. Right, so that short window, right, of time really helps, I think, for camp.
It makes the staff have to trust them. In that leadership.
Yeah. This is the only person they've got to go to, right? There's nobody else.
That's one of the things I love about getting students, and when I was a youth pastor, even getting people on a mission trip, because you get them in a space where they're a little uncomfortable, and they're not that they're humbled, but they can't quite be as sure of themselves as they think, and they're just they could become palatable for learning and growing, but you have to get in that space to do that. We would rather live in the secure, comfortable space where we think we got a good handle on it. But man, if you can't ever get them into those spots, the cool thing is I feel like you grow really fast. That's what's awesome about camp is all of a sudden you do see these gifts that you didn't know you had, or now God's got you in a spot and you're actually growing and at a speed that you weren't even aware that could happen. But our pride keeps us stunned, I think, a lot. Yeah.
Trent, I don't know about you. I can't think of a single person I've ever talked to that worked camp that didn't talk about how life-changing it was for them and how much they love it, right? That they still, man, if I could go back and do that again. A lady stopped me after chapel today, and she was saying, I work camp. I can't remember I think it's Cross Point, if you remember the old Cross Point camp. And
I went to Cross Point. Yeah,
Cross Point was here at Campbellsville for a while, but she said, man, if I could go back today, I'd love to go back and do it again. And that's been my experience, man. People, once they do it, it is a life-changing thing that you remember for the rest of your life. And if you could, you'd love to go back and do it again. I'm 69. I'd love to go back and do it again. Yeah.
I mean, that's why I still do camp pastoring at camps and stuff. I mean, I love to preach, but I love the opportunity for camp, and just what it is. Holland, throw a question at him. I know you got one stirring over there.
At me. Ooh, you're putting me on the spot.
I did put you on the spot.
What is the difference in the experience of being a camper versus being a counselor? Because your life's going to change either way, but what's the difference?
I think what my experience has been, 99% of the time, if you're as you call it, a counselor, a camp staffer, you are going to change. For a student that comes to camp with a church, it's more of a choice for them if they're going to grow, right? They've got to make a decision to want to grow. Now, I think there's a ton of value in being away from friends and family and electronics and TV, right? All those things that can influence you, and you just are saturated in the gospel for several days. I think there's crazy value in that. But you still got to make that choice. You still got to pay attention. You still got to listen. As a summer staffer, man, you are thrust into it. There is high expectation for everything you do, to do it with excellence. There's a lot of training that goes along, like to prepare you for it. There's a lot of training. So I think you can grow in either place, but there's something unique about the camp world. You want to do well. You are entrusted with a lot. You feel that sense of responsibility that kind of drives you, that almost forces you to become closer to Jesus. Because, man, you've got to rely on them. Because and how do you do literally 14-hour days? How do you do those for 8 weeks? For us, we do a lot of what we call opening days. So they'll finish camp that morning at, 9 o'clock, and there'll be another group roll in there at 1:32 in the afternoon. And you can't do that without the support and love of Jesus, right? You just can't do it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being like that as a staffer. What's cool about that is it really prepares you for life also. Like we're talking about gifts and maybe discernment and ministry that God's calling you to, but you as well as I know living as an adult where you're balancing being a husband, a father, working maybe multiple jobs. I make the joke all the time. This is the first time in my life I haven't had more than 3 or 4 jobs at once, and so that ability to not only learn that management of your life, but also you're getting to see God's faithfulness, like you're saying, in it, that I can, back in the day when I was at CentriKid, we did backpacking track, and I remember coming back, I would bring these 5th or 6th graders back, and you'd be exhausted, but then you're right back into this I can't wait experience where you have to have high energy, and I remember real clearly one time just asking God, I was like, I have no energy at all, you're going to have to give me what is needed, and, in 30 seconds I had this energy that I hadn't had all week, and those moments propel you into spaces where later down the road you're going to be a dad. I mean, on a daily basis, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, rolling into the house. I'd love to have this energy, but taking that model, Lord, you're going to have to give me the strength to invest in my kids right now. I think that's the stuff that maybe we don't see, but that really plays out from that experience.
There's something unique about camp. It's almost like being on a sports team, right? When you play sports, the goal is crystal clear, right? Mm-hmm. You want to win the championship. Yeah. Here's how you do that. I always say, like in leadership, people don't always know if they're succeeding, but in sports, you always know, right? How many
or lose. Yeah.
How many complete passes did I make? How many tackles did I make? Like even as you as an individual, But that idea of working as a team is really a unique thing. And I remember when I went to my first church after camp, it was so unique to me that I felt I was in my own silo as a student pastor, and I was no longer on a team that was working together to accomplish something.
It's huge, yeah.
And man, that sense of being on a team that's trying to accomplish something together is special that you don't always find, no matter if it's hard to find. And as a leader, if you get the opportunity to lead people, if you can figure out how to build and develop a team that loves to be together, that's trying to accomplish something that's really about eternity, is a uniquely special thing. And summer, you have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Holland, what kind of questions, if you were going to, Lance has been in multiple different ministries, led major camps, from CentriKid, Lifeway, Fuge, Crossings. And as a college student, if you were going to pose a question to him, whether it's about life or about ministry, and Holland recently, her journey has been really turning to ministry and seeing what God is wanting to do in her life and where to take that. What kind of question would you there's so much wisdom we could get from Lance right now, but if you were to, on behalf of the university and the students here, what would you ask him?
It's a lot of pressure. I guess, what would your advice be? Because me, I'm almost scared when I go work at camp. What am I going to do during the year when there's no more camp? What would your advice be for, a college student that's, missing camp? How can you carry that same sort of spirit throughout the school year with you?
Yeah, I think there are some camps that have actually named it, but there is this thing about when you get home, after you sleep for 3 days straight, right? After you kind of physically recuperate, there's a sense of loss of community that you felt at Trent when you were in camp,
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And you long to be around those friends. Man, some of them will, plan beach trips together. Like we've had staff that, they'll be home for 3 days and then, 12 of them are going to meet down at the beach somewhere, or they meet at somebody's house. So there is that thing. I think it's just part of life. You just kind of have to embrace it's not going to be the same, but what can I invest in, right? Where can I find that sense of I want to be part of something? that really makes an eternal difference. Like if you're on campus at Campbellsville, I bet you guys could give a list of 5 things that if you could just convince students to leave, when they leave camp, if you'll invest in our campus ministry like you invested in camp in the summer, not only will your life improve, but you can help a lot.
All the impact
right?
would be huge.
You can make a huge impact. And if we could just help students realize, hey man, you loved camp. That's a great thing. You miss it. I'm so glad for you. But hey, man, you're not going to do camp for the rest of your life. So where are you going to invest yourself in? You've got opportunities at your university. If it's a secular school, the campus ministries at University of Kentucky and UK, Eastern, Western, they have great campus ministries. If they could just see the benefit of investing in that like they invested in the summer, everybody would win, right?
Well, I think you've said it a couple times that people seeing value in something and people seeing benefit. I think that's one of the biggest hinge points and challenges for us in general in life to take on something, to realize that this has great value. Speaking of value, we like to kind of keep this short and for something people to chew on and kind of go with. If you were to leave, we think that God is the one that brings us to the table, but he also has given us all something to bring to the table. And Lance, we could spend here 4 hours and just listen to you and learn a lot. But if you were going to leave a table tip today, whether it's about camp or about ministry or about responding, whatever maybe that kind of came up, or just in general in life, what would you leave us with today?
I was going to talk about leadership and that your job as a leader is to help those you lead succeed. But we were talking about value. I really want to cap off on that for a second. Truett Cathy said, how do you know somebody needs to be encouraged? If they're breathing, right? I love that line. That means everybody needs to be encouraged, right? Yeah. I've got this belief that people need to feel valued. And when people are unhappy, a lot of the time, it's just it's about not feeling valued. So when I was at Lifeway, the revenue was decreasing, so it was a ministry business. So as the revenue decreased, we always had to let people go. And we were always transitioning and moving offices. And I'd have people who come to me and they'd be upset because, their office was smaller, or they went from a wooden desk to a metal desk. And it was always strange to me. I'm like, why do they care so much about, how many square inches they're losing or how much window are they losing? And finally, I realized it wasn't about the size of the office or the kind of desk they had, because in that organization, according to your position, you would come in and let's say you're a support staff. Well, you were going to get a cube, and then you may work your way up to a door, from a door to a window, from a window to a corner office, to a wooden desk, et cetera. So what I realized was, what people were saying to me when they were talking about the size of their office, they were really saying, does this place value me? Do they want me? And to realize that everybody needs to feel valued becomes a great responsibility for leaders to help people feel valued. Even when they're struggling and you've got to correct them, right? To give them direction, to do that in a way that honors them, that they can see that it's for their best, not for your best. You want them to succeed. As a leader, if your job is to help those you lead succeed, ultimately you're helping yourself and the organization succeed. Because if they do well, you will do well. But if you'll put them first and yourself second, you succeed, the organization succeeds. So that starting point of how do you help people feel valued, and how do you see that your job is to help those you lead succeed, I think is huge for anybody who sits in a leadership chair.
Man, we need to have you back and just talk leadership sometime. That'd be awesome.
That'd be fun. I like to talk leadership.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Holly, anything last words you want to say?
I don't think so.
She's speechless today.
I know. There's speechless.
Lance, thanks so much. Until next time.
Me.
Yeah, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks, man.
This podcast is brought to you by Campus Ministry at Campbellsville University, where faith, testimony, and dialogue come together. Stay connected, stay inspired, and we'll see you at the table next time.